Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Random Chatter. I know we're coming at you on a weird night of the week this week, but it was either that or delay longer because, you know, Super Bowl stuff is apparently
keeping you on your
important.
toes.
That's true. That's true. So we have a lot of stuff to review and give you our thoughts and opinions on. And we're going to jump right into it. I know Lou has been looking forward to talking about a particular show for at least 3 or 4 weeks now.
More than that.
5 weeks? How long has it been since you saw the promo for this, Lou?
I was one of the lucky few that got to see the first episode back in New York Comic Con 2019.
Wow.
So October 2019.
So well over a year and a quarter.
They promised us spring of 2020.
Liars.
But we all know what happened in spring of 2020.
Yeah. So we are talking, of course, about Resident Alien, the new show starring Alan Tudyk. Now, Tim, have you watched this?
I have not yet, no.
All right. Well, Lou and I have both seen it. We're going to get to some different things we're going to review that multiples of us have seen, and then we're going to break down our individual recommendations and stuff. Lou, why don't you walk us through the basic premise for Resident Alien and then what you liked about it. This is going to be spoiler free, so don't worry. This is airing as it's not on TNT, is it? AMC?
No, it's on Sci-Fi.
That's right. Okay.
Yep.
That would make sense. It's about aliens.
It is, yeah. So the premise is, well, I mean, even the trailers say this. So it's a small town in Colorado, I believe it is, that nobody would ever want to live in their right minds. You know,
no offense to Colorado.
Never want to live there. Exactly. It's just cold and winter and, you know, all that stuff. No, it's good, but, you know, it
says the guy in Connecticut. Town. Just saying.
We just had a foot of snow. Yeah. Anyways. So, you know, unless you want to have something to hide is what they say. And this character has something to hide. Alan Tudyk plays an alien who is here on Earth. He's impersonating a human who happens to be a doctor in this town. And he thought, you know, I can be here. I'm out of the way. I don't have to interact with anybody. I'm a loner. I'm out in this cabin by the lake. You know, no big deal. Well, the town doctor is killed, and the sheriff enlists this other doctor to help figure out what happened. So now he's got to interact with people and humans, and you know, he learns English by watching Law and Order. In its typical Alan Tudyk comedy, it's great. Yeah. I mean, his portrayal of this character is really, really well done. This fish out of water kind of character being, you know, the alien trying to learn how to be a human, and you know, just hilarity ensues, even though it's about death and stuff. But it's a great show. Yeah, you see
impersonating a human badly.
But not badly enough that people understand he's not human.
Which is interesting because I saw an interview or read an interview with the people who did the casting for the show, and they were talking about, you know, we casted, we were going through auditions for different people, and you know, some people really had the human part down, but not the alien. Some people were like going really over the top with the alien part, and then Alan walked in and he got it. It was that right level. Like, he was human and he was relatable, but it was just barely that right level of awkwardness that you could tell he wasn't quite human, but he could almost pass, but not quite. And he always danced that line just perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about Alan Tudyk. He is such an underrated actor.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to do with comedy, and he gets it. He gets
the comedy aspect of it really, really well. And part of that's the writing, part of that's the directing, but part of it's the actor too. So it's that three aspects of this all meld together really well. I'm produced a really good character and a really good show. So the first episode aired last week. Episode 2 is airing tonight as we record this.
Should be there instead of here.
I know. I want to. After it's now.
Hey, you're watching that football game instead, or soccer, whatever. It's soccer here, football. You're watching that Sunday instead of recording, so I don't want to hear it. Just saying.
Watching and eating. Anyways, Yes, and I think the first episode is a little bit twist at the end, kind of sets things up for the rest of the
Yeah.
season. So there's some higher stakes going on. Won't spoil the ending of that, and I won't spoil the sequence in the middle of the episode about humans and alcohol. It's great. You guys will
I will
enjoy
say
that.
this. There is I forget how long it is, but there's a preview where they give you the first few minutes of the episode online. Promotional material. I saw it. I was very unimpressed. It made me
Really?
yes,
Okay.
to the point where like I said, I trust Alan Tudyk enough that I'm going to watch it anyway. But if it weren't because of Alan Tudyk, I'm not sure I would watch the show. I probably would because I'm so bored and I'm looking for new stuff. But like I actually decreased my interest level in the show. So I will say to people out there, if you saw that and you weren't really hooked, give it a try anyway. Because by a third to halfway through, I'd say probably about halfway through, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not what I was expecting it to be. And then by the end of the episode, I was hooked. So give it a chance.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Next up, and Tim, I apologize because I'm guessing you probably didn't watch this either. The other big release this week was the premiere of the second season of Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
I did not, but by all means.
Okay. And again, I'll say it before, and I said this to Lou, and I had to like drag Lou kicking and screaming to this series.
Mm-hmm.
And after having then later watched the movie, I totally understand why. But I think Lou would agree that you're up next. We're going to drag you kicking and screaming to this series.
I mean, other than the fact that the premise behind the entire series is still stupid.
Yes.
Yes. like utterly, it makes no sense at all. Other than that, it's great. The acting is good. The casting is great. I was totally halfway through the first season before I realized that what's his name, the main character. He was in Hamilton.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the same guy. Oh my god,
rapping quickly
range.
with a French accent. Like, dude is skilled, man. Like,
yeah, he's got some range.
Wow. Yeah. That was also amazing. But yeah, Snowpiercer. We've talked about it before on our review shows here. How good it is. I have to say, season 2. I watched the second episode. It just came out. It's actually been a little bit since we've recorded. So there are 2 episodes that are live now. Did you see both of them or just the first?
No, just the first one.
The ways in which the first one was really good, the second one is just as good. And definitely furthers the stakes a little bit. I don't remember if at the end of the first episode, if they revealed the big piece of information or not. And if you're kind of shaking your head like I'm not sure, then maybe they didn't.
I'm not sure. I mean, there was a big reveal in the first episode for what was coming.
So
at the very beginning of the first episode,
one of the main characters was investigating something, and that investigation got it got sabotaged by one of the antagonists. That leads somewhere in the second episode, and it's very interesting. And the stakes are continuing to get higher and higher, and I love this series.
Yeah. So we talked about how this, the series is way different than the movie, and the storyline is fantastic. And it was getting to the point where at the end of the first episode, I'm like, okay, I'm still really invested in this. I'm still really happy with where they're going with the classes and the story and the characters. Take apart that it's set on a moving train beyond, aside from that. The second season ups the stakes quite a bit. We introduce new characters. We have a new element that we've added in. And it's great. And it's just going further. And if you're telling me something more happening in the second episode, I can't wait to watch that now. So
there's something that happens in the second episode that will probably, it clearly is going to define the objectives for the season.
Okay.
Let me rephrase that. It will redefine the journey for the series. while still holding true to the series. Like it's not a shark jumping thing. It is very much still continuing in the trajectory where things went before, but it's good. It's so hard to talk about this series without spoiling anything, because even season 1, you want people to watch it. And in watching it, there are so many plot twists and different twists and turns. You can't even really contextualize the second season without a big spoiler for the first season. Just go watch it. Just go watch it. It's on TNT. You may have access to the TNT streaming app if you have DirecTV, Dish TV, Comcast, Xfinity, whoever your cable provider is. You may already have access to that. And they've got the entire series available on their streaming app.
Yeah, and the other was also weird, too, because the first season is available entirely also on HBO Max.
True.
But the second season's airing as it appears on Amazon Prime, I think?
Not for free, I don't think. I think you can purchase it on Amazon.
Well, it was somewhere other than HBO Max.
TNT.
HBO Max still has season 1. Maybe I'm watching it on TNT as part of Apple TV Plus, maybe? I don't know. I got to look back where I saw it, because the first episode, the second episode recorded on my DVR, but the first episode I happened to see on my iPad, and I thought it was on Amazon Prime, but I don't know.
They might have made the premiere available for free. I think they did that on iTunes as well.
It just seemed weird that it wasn't in the same place that you could watch season 1 on. I thought, okay, HBO Max will have season 2 as well, but they don't appear to.
So it belongs to TNT, and of course, as you said, HBO Max, because I assume it's produced by Warner Brothers. They got season 1, but season 2 just started up. And yeah, I think that iTunes had the first episode for free as well. And so maybe Amazon had it for free if you had Prime, but then you've got to pay for the additional episodes. But I don't think you can stream it anywhere for free without a cable subscription that allows you to log into the TNT app. So, Babylon 5. Any takers? Tim, you've never seen Babylon 5, have you?
I've seen some of it and a long time ago.
Okay. It is...
I never fully got into the whole thing. Not because I didn't like it. I just didn't. So
it is probably one of the strongest pieces of television writing ever. It has in my opinion, and I will argue this to my deathbed, the best series finale in all of television. And I know people love the MASH finale. I'm telling you, this one's better.
And yet, the whole thing of this was it was written from start to finish before they recorded anything.
Not.
I mean, maybe not every episode, but the plot line was done. The story was he had in his mind what was going to happen, and he wanted to get equipment for 5 years from the network. I forget who was it TNT doing it originally? Or no?
Warner Brothers.
Warner Bros. And they gave it to him, and they cut him at 4 seasons. So he scrambled to change things around for the 4th season. The 5th season was a little bit weird. Still ended where he wanted it to, but it still didn't have the same punch I think that it could have had if we had not had the interruption. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go on, Eric. I didn't mean to.
No. That's actually a really good point. They did take they had filmed the series finale at the end of season 4, and when they got renewed at the last second, took that out, tacked it on to the end of season 5 where it belonged. And then ended season 4 with a different finale, and then went through season 5. But
I know they had to change some things around in season 4 to finish where they were going to, and then
Still though, just such an epic series. Some of the best. Everybody talks about Aaron Sorkin when it comes to writing dialogue. I would argue that some of the best character speeches and monologue moments in television history, some of them have been in Babylon 5. He wrote just some incredible characters, incredible moments, and incredible dialogue.
And there was some incredible character arcs going on too. I mean,
every character had an arc.
Epic stuff. Yeah. And not just a little bit of growth in the character change from this to that, but no, these were, sometimes species changing,
Yeah.
character arcs.
Every character, they started out in one place and they ended up somewhere entirely different. You can take any primary or secondary character in that series and dedicate at least one entire podcast episode to, if not several.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and yet it's the end of that 90s era of production. That very kind of clean cut, really well lit. Like it was right after that we went into the Battlestar Galactica reboot. And that was very dark and gritty and stuff like that. So this is the last of kind of the 1990s style of presentation. So there are some people who might be a little put off by that and feel like it maybe hasn't aged that well. I think it's aged fine, because it's really, the story makes up for a lot of that. And the other thing is season 1 had some rough moments. It's a lot like we were just talking on Force Chatter. Tim and I were talking about Dave Filoni, and I said, Filoni, in my opinion, it takes a while for him to ramp up. And I use Babylon 5 as an example. Straczynski takes a little bit of time to ramp up, but then once the ball gets rolling, get out of the way.
And I've said that with a lot of episodes, a lot of Star Trek stuff.
That's true too.
I mean, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, first seasons were horribly rough because, the writers were finding their voice, the actors were finding the characters, all that stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, the reason we talk about Babylon 5 is because it was just remastered and released both on Amazon Prime and iTunes, but also for streaming on HBO Max. Everything was remastered except The Gathering, which is the pilot movie that was already remastered back in 2008. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. That was previously remastered already.
I thought it was like 2015. I thought it was much closer to now.
We'll compromise and we'll say 2013. How's that?
Sure, why not?
Sounds good. Why not? But it was previously remastered, so they remastered all the rest. Now, the one catch is, in order to do it properly, it's in 4:3 aspect ratio. Get over it. Mm-hmm. Sorry. There's a whole...
As it was originally presented.
Look it up online. There are entire blog series about why things are the way they are with the aspect ratios and the formatting and all this kind of stuff. But it's okay. You'll get through it. Anyway, so that's definitely a strong recommendation from both of us. But given that Tim didn't see any of the 3 things that were going to be the joint picks for the week, Tim, why don't you take us into what you've been watching?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 2 big things were both Netflix movies. One was Rebecca, which is a remake of an older film by the same name. Psychological thriller. This one was done last year, I think.
Okay.
It's Netflix exclusive. Really, really good. Highly recommend. Just incredibly well written. Great acting. Terrific.
I will say that Robin recommended it so highly that we decided we're adding it to our list of things for Movie Chatter.
Good. I think you guys will really enjoy it. And Robin doesn't like horror, so this is not horror, but it is a really well done psychological thriller.
Dude, she had me at Lily James. That's all you have to say, and I'm in. So,
and it's one of those psychological thrillers that there are certain points in it where you're like, something's going to jump out at me, but then you're like, no, this isn't a horror. They're screwing with me. And you expect that at certain times throughout the movie. It's that good that it's ready to press that button, and it never does. I really appreciated that. The other one is Mosul. So this is the city in Iraq.
Okay.
This is based on a true story of basically an Iraqi army or national police SWAT team. That kind of went rogue, and fundamentally their story in fighting terrorists, and it really gets into a lot of the individuals and the stuff that they did and all that.
So when you say go rogue, you mean vigilante, not become bad guys themselves?
Right. They did not become bad guys. Okay. They basically had a disagreement with their chain of command, and they just kind of took a hard right, and just kind of did their own thing.
Interesting.
So really, really interesting. This was produced by the Russo brothers.
Oh. Okay, yeah, we've heard of them.
The entire movie is in Arabic, and it's subtitled.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. The character development in it, the story in it, absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is a, drama, definitely a hardcore drama. You get a good amount of action. You get some of that kind of, dark comedy in it. Just incredibly well done. It was great.
And where is it streaming?
That is also on Netflix.
Okay.
So I definitely recommend that one. Let's see. In terms of some other new stuff that I watched, Outside the Wire, and you guys, I believe, just covered that last night on Movie Chatter, right?
We did, yes.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that?
So I think Robin and I pretty much hold a lot of the same opinions on it. We liked it. I'm a little unsure with the story that they went ultimately in the end with Anthony Mackie's character. Like, I totally get what they did, kind of that altruistic sacrifice kind of thing. But on the other side, it was like to me, it would have been just way more interesting if he stayed on the straight and narrow and he was, this army cyborg super soldier.
Lou, we should have had him on the show. Robin was much more forgiving, much more forgiving of that. Like, she was all about this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was really interesting. It had it told a really neat story. I like the kind of the world that it painted, which is in a not too distant future, and even some things that we're already seeing. We have drones, and there's so much work on autonomous fighting machines and that kind of stuff. So it really isn't too far-fetched until you get into like the Anthony Mackie character,
and let's not spoil too much.
Yeah. Let's see. One Night in Bangkok. This is on HBO Max, where we saw this. This has Mark Dacascos on it, or in it. A lot of people. So if you are a foodie and you've watched Iron Chef America, he is the chairman.
Okay, that's why I have no idea who you're talking.
He was also in John Wick Chapter 3.
Oh, well, then maybe I do know who you're talking about.
So he's one
How
of
do you
those
go from
faces
Iron Chef to John Wick? I mean, there's knives in both, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess if you're really good at cutting with a knife, you can be really good at throwing them at people. Is that?
He's been an actor for a long time, and then he just kind of ended up in this role in Iron Chef.
Okay, so he's like a Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and really, I mean, he had nothing to do with food in Iron Chef America.
Oh, okay.
He was kind of a character.
He would just throw the knives at the losers.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's one of those actors that when you see his face, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I've seen him in half a dozen things, kind of thing.
Okay.
This is a kind of like a revenge type of movie.
Is this recent?
Really interesting. Yeah, last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really interesting perspective. I like the writing. I like the directing. I like the acting in it. One of the characters, the acting wasn't all that great, which is a little unfortunate because she's kind of a mainstay character through it. Interesting twists going through it. It is a slow burn. And I think that is probably one of the reasons why when you look up ratings on it, it is not rated very well, because it is that slow of a burn. That said,
okay,
the movie itself, the content of the movie is actually really good. So if you can go through a slow build up on a movie, then yes, do it. If you need the more immediate gratification, then it's probably not for you.
Okay.
The next one, excuse me. The next one is Spycraft. And I know, Eric, this is on your list as well.
Yeah, we should have added that to the joint picks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, tell us about it.
So this is on Netflix. It's a limited series on Netflix. It is basically like a docu-series, and they talk about the history of Spycraft. Pretty much from mostly from the Cold War going forward. They talk about some stuff that predates the Cold War, but by and large, it's the Cold War going forward.
To today.
And
there's some very recent things in there too.
Oh yeah. They cover a lot of different aspects of spy stuff. And they'll even say hey, you've seen this kind of thing in James Bond. And, this is what's real about it. This is what isn't. And some of this stuff is pretty amazing. I mean, you watch a James Bond film and you're oh yeah, Q came up with this crazy thing that goes in somebody's shoe. That's not real. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. It might not work exactly the same way, but it's real. If you've ever been to a spy museum, the Spy Museum in DC is absolutely incredible. Highly recommend.
Spent most of my life outside DC and still have never been to the Spy Museum.
Oh gosh,
I've never been to it either. Yeah.
Well, when you guys come down and visit someday,
post-pandemic, put that on the
Absolutely.
list. That's a must-do. Also knowing that we do have some listeners out in Germany, the Spy Museum in Berlin is also really, really good.
Okay.
And interesting. I mean, the one in Berlin very, very much focuses on Cold War stuff because Berlin was the center of the Cold War spy world.
Yeah.
The one in DC obviously has a lot of stuff on that, but it also expands beyond that. So yeah, I like this, Eric. What did you think about Spycraft?
I thought it was really good. I started it. I'm interested in that kind of thing anyway. And so I started watching it. And at the beginning, I'm like, yeah, seen that. Holy crap. What is that? So it was one of those things where if you've watched things like this before, there's going to be some repeat information in there, but the stuff you didn't know about is really interesting stuff. It is definitely worth going out of your way to watch. And one of the things they do is they break it up into different segments. So there'll be one segment about listening devices. Mm-hmm. There's another segment about the use of sex in the spy trade, and which was not there are some obvious implications there, right? Pretty simple. You've seen it in every movie. You saw it in Alias, any TV show that's covered spy stuff. But it was really interesting to see some of the specific stories, and they did not go the way you would think that they would go. Right. And the way in which the people in that industry utilized different things and different techniques and different strategies, it was really enlightening. I've only maybe 3 episodes. I think about 3 episodes into it. And I forget how many there are, but it is definitely worth going out of your way to watch. Yeah. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, it really is. If you have any interest in that kind of stuff, if you like, the spy genre of film or books or whatever, it's absolutely worth watching. Let's see. Things that I've watched before that we watched again. Zero Dark 30, I think is a great movie. It's basically the story of how they found Osama bin Laden. It has Jessica Chastain in it. Both my wife and I love her. Just really great movie, really well done. Sum of All Fears, which goes back to 98 or something, 99.
Yep. Is that Harrison Ford?
No, that is it is a Tom Clancy movie. That is
Alec Baldwin?
Nope.
Oh, is this
who was in between?
Does this focus on Jack Ryan or that other character?
No, it's Jack Ryan.
It is Jack
so
Ryan.
It's
I'll talk. One of you guys will look it up. Yeah, they changed the characters, both Jack's character as well as the friend, the CIA
Ben
boss.
Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Right,
yes, thank you.
right. Okay.
Good movie. Hadn't seen it in easily 15 years. Ghost of Girlfriends Past. I love that movie. I think it's great. It's a good.
Too soon for me. I'm sorry. Go on.
kind of rom-com-ish, which is fundamentally based on Christmas Carol.
Okay. But not Christmassy.
Where
Like
he's-
it just has the same idea of the ghosts.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct. Really, I've always liked the movie, and it's a movie that isn't on very much, that you just don't catch it around very much. So we actually ended up renting it. Amazon probably. And then Avengers. Avengers is actually a movie I've not seen in a while, and I just kind of had a hankering for it, and it was good to go back and see, that first ensemble MCU movie. And because I haven't seen it in a while, it was just, I kind of immersed myself in it and really solidly paid attention to it. And of course, with how big the MCU is, it's always cool to kind of go back to these movies. And, of course, some of it was intentional, and sure, there's a lot of it that wasn't intentional, that like something that they brought up in Endgame was a reflection on something that was in Avengers, that they really just like, oh, hey, you know what? There's a thing in Avengers that we should just kind of reference here.
Yeah.
Make it some little Easter egg or something. But it's just cool to see how it all evolved. So it was like I solidly enjoyed it.
I also recently started a rewatch of it. I haven't finished it. I got an Oculus Quest for Christmas, and I've started watching the 3D version of it.
Oh,
and the nice thing about when you watch it in the Oculus Quest, you don't have, like, the way 3D works in the theaters is you have those glasses, right? And they're polarized. So they're cutting out 50% of the light in each lens.
Right.
When you watch it on an active 3D display, you don't have that. I have Avengers and Avengers Infinity War. I don't have Endgame.
Oh, cool.
But so I was rewatching it recently as well, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, and it was nice to go back and revisit that. And it kind of made me want to go back and revisit a lot of the other MCU movies as well. There are a few I've seen repeatedly, but then somebody in the Discord server was talking about the second Thor movie recently.
Yes.
And how it's better now after having seen the entire run of the MCU. Yeah, I think it's time for me to go back and maybe revisit some of those that I kind of, I saw obviously, but kind of glossed over and didn't have a lot of interest in, and maybe give them another chance.
Yeah, Thor: Dark World is one actually that from that discussion on Discord that I figured, okay, I'll actually go back and watch it, because it's not a movie that I really liked.
Yeah.
But I'll give it that second shot.
Yeah, why not?
And actually, a movie I forgot to put on the list here, that we also watched, another MCU movie, was Captain Marvel, and just so much appreciation for the second act of that movie. The first act sets things up. The third act kind of has that real big reveal and all that. But the second act of that movie is the kind of this whole process of discovery, and so much of it is centered around the interaction between her and Sam Jackson, and it is pure gold how well the two of them work together. I mean, their timing in it, the writing for both of those characters, the acting for both of them was just, the second act of that movie is just pure gold.
It really is. I think the second act is probably the best act of the whole film.
Yeah, it really is. Let's see, kind of ongoing stuff. BattleBots we talk about a lot. Of course, catch the last episode of Random Chatter, which was our chat with Farouk, which was awesome. It was great to talk to him again. SWAT. SWAT continues to simply impress the hell out of me.
You're almost making me want to watch it. Like, you praise it often enough. There's got to be something there.
Yeah, you really do. It strikes a really good balance between, you get the SWAT police action stuff, you know, the cool actiony, you shoot 'em up kind of thing. You get really good character development that happens over time. They play the long game with the character development, and yeah, you know, each episode will spend some time with a character and a little story arc. But those story arcs, for the most part, are, you know, they're the B stories to that particular episode. And a lot of the episodes, you know, several episodes a season will hit very current, culturally relevant things. You know, they earlier in the season, they talked about the police violence stuff, and like, they addressed it insanely well. You know, in the show, they had this like really open discussion and dialogue about it, you know, really good, honest stuff. They've talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. They've talked about, you know, they hit all these like really, really current events, and they do it so well.
Yeah.
Like, really, really intellectual. But it doesn't become like this overwhelming thing either, that it's like, oh, they're going to sit and talk about this thing because it was on the news, you know, 6 months ago, and that's when they shot this. No, it's solid. It's really well done. They make it part of the story. Yeah, there's really, really good stuff in it. Solidly enjoyable.
Okay. Before you get to the books and comics, because I've got some too, and some of ours overlap a little bit. Why don't we put a pin in those until later in the episode, if that's okay?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, cool. Lou, what have you been watching?
A lot of the same stuff that you've already talked about, really. I mean, the, you know, Resident Alien, Snowpiercer, and so forth. From Tim's recommendation a few weeks back, I watched Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely loved. My wife and I went through that series pretty quickly. Fascinating story, and, you know, believable, and just everything about it was
I'm
fantastic.
very happy it got a Golden Globe nomination.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm happy with that series. That was great. I wish it was continuing, but, you know, it was limited.
And how impressive
what I
that
had.
you can take a story about chess. It's not about chess, but you can take a story about a chess player and make it that good. And then Anya, I forget her last name now. Oh my gosh, the acting was
I don't know her last name. Yeah, she was great.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. Yep. It was funny because, I mean, I was wondering how much of it I really enjoyed, because I used to play chess, not anywhere near at that level, but you know, always enjoyed the game, fascinated by, you know, topics within chess and so forth. And so it had a special, you know, remembrance for me, you know, from when I was younger, and I'm wondering how much that clouded my judgment as to how good I thought the series was. But my wife enjoyed it too, and she didn't play chess at all. So yeah,
I've talked to several people who don't know anything about chess or know very little, and they still loved it. So I think it's pretty safe to say that you don't have to know anything about chess. You don't have to like chess. Again, it's not about chess.
Right.
But then if you do know about chess, we talked before about the fact they had Gary Kasparov come in and actually, like, all of those games you're watching actually happened, and their actual specific moves, and the actors had to learn the actual specific, you know, placement of the pieces, like which, okay, now I move here, now he moves there, now I move there. Yeah, it was incredible.
So that was kind of the only thing that I've been watching that was Discovery Season 2. Still catching up on Discovery, and really enjoying Season 2 a lot more than Season 1. So looking forward to getting to Season 3.
I'm looking forward to your comments on Season 3 as well.
Okay.
Things change.
Okay. And Season 2 was a big departure from what Season 1 was.
True.
So, yeah, no, I'm giving it a second chance. I think I got a little disillusioned by Season 1 when I first watched it. Really didn't give Season 2 a wholehearted chance. Got through a couple episodes and just lost interest, or, you know, got busy on something else.
Yeah.
But now I'm going back to it. So I've rewatched Season 1 entirely. I'm watching Season 2 now. So yeah, I'll be on to Season 3 soon.
Good.
Otherwise, that's really it. I mean,
That's it?
doing comics again. I got a subscription to Comixology, the unlimited thing in Comixology, so I'm doing some comics there.
Okay, I'm going to ask you in a minute what you've checked out from comics that's interesting. So for me, I finally watched The Flight Attendant. I know we've talked about that before. I started it. I got about halfway through the pilot episode, and I'm like, it's okay. But then when I sat down to actually binge through it, really good. I was really surprised by it. I watched LA's Finest finally, which is a spin-off of Bad Boys, and it hit Netflix. I've been waiting for it to.
How is it?
I was waiting for it to become available somewhere. I only watched the pilot episode so far, and it was good. It definitely had a feel like Bad Boys, but it planted a lot of seeds for it being a longer ongoing series, and I'm intrigued as to where they're going to take things. Like, I'm interested, which is good. That's exactly what you want a pilot episode to do. Now, I just haven't had a chance to pick it back up again. This was only over the last week, so it's definitely like at the top of my list. It's right at the top of my queue. It's good. I would recommend it. And I know you're a big Bad Boys fan too, right?
The first two movies, yeah. The third one was okay. But
yeah,
I like what they created. I love the cast.
I think that both the actresses do great jobs with their characters. I think that the writing is good. It's clear that they want the audience to invest in these characters in a meaningful way. And I like it. I'm a fan. I'm going to keep watching it.
Cool.
I also started The Watch, which is weird.
I keep seeing ads for that. Yeah, I haven't checked that out yet.
It's trying to describe it is already giving me a headache. Think kind of post-apocalyptic, not quite steampunk. There was an old RPG, like a Dungeons and Dragons type RPG system. I don't remember the name of it right offhand. I don't know if Carrie's still in the chat room or not. She might remember it. But it was a mixture of kind of cyberpunk and fantasy. So you had like modern day skyscrapers and stuff, but you had dragons. Like dragons would run corporations and stuff. And you had magic and technology and stuff. And this wasn't quite to that level, but there are like dragons and magic, but there's also like guns and stuff, but it's a little more like lower level tech. So like the video camera systems at a local bar or pub or something, when you open up the camera, it's actually this little like miniature fairy who's like painting pictures, like moving pictures. That's your video footage. And but weird, like, but good. So like if you're a fan of kind of like Neil Gaiman, Douglas Adams, outside the box stuff, it's pretty good. I'm maybe 3 episodes into it so far. I plan to continue. And it's currently airing. It's not like bingeable. It's like every week there's a new episode coming up. But I think the first 4 or 5 episodes maybe are available. I would recommend it. I think it's good.
Okay.
Other things. After the Kong vs. Godzilla trailer came out, I thought I'd probably better go check out the movies I'd been missing. I'd seen Kong and Skull Island. So for the first time, I watched Godzilla 2014. Much better than I expected. It was good. And I've still got to see King of Monsters, and then I'll be caught up. Otherwise, keeping up with WandaVision. Based on your recommendation, I probably would have watched it anyway because I remember it from being a kid, but I watched Challenger: The Last Flight. That was really good.
Yep.
Not a little sad and disturbing. The Social Dilemma made me feel much better about my stance on social media and my avoidance of it. And then I started watching BattleBots Bounty Hunters.
Oh, nice.
Yay.
It's so good news and bad news. The bad news is it's basically just BattleBots, but with a slightly different spin. So it's like the whole championship ranking sort of thing, but miniaturized, and then over the course of just 2 episodes, which is like 1 day. The good news is it's more BattleBots. Like you can't complain about that.
Right.
It's just, yeah, fine. It's just like the other BattleBots episodes. Great. Keep them coming. So it means more BattleBots. And so that's nothing but joy right there. So I would highly recommend it because it's BattleBots. Caught up on Harley Quinn. Finished that. I finished a lot of seasons of things recently. Finished Flight Attendant. Finished Harley Quinn. I'm 1 episode away from finally finishing Stargirl, and I've got to finish a lot of the other DC, CW, Arrowverse shows. Finishing up Daredevil season 3. I realized I never finished that season, and I never finished the 2nd season of Punisher. And finished up Jack Ryan, which awesome. And then we talked before in a couple of other episodes about comic books, and just now I finished Light of the Jedi, and we talked about that. Tim, you and I did just now on Force Chatter tonight, and we're going to have a more in-depth spoilery analysis sort of review once Tom and Lou catch up on it, as well as look at the comics, and however far we get into the additional material, because there's a lot of stuff out there for it. But comic books, I renewed my subscription to Marvel Unlimited, and I haven't really done much with it yet. I got a couple of Star Wars issues out of the way from the Bounty Hunter series. And I got through the House of X and Power of X series, which kind of then lets me start with the current run of the X-Men comics. I don't know how I feel about them. I'm a big X-Men fan, but I like the X-Men more when they're in society rather than when they extract themselves from society. So I'm on the fence about it. But what stuff have you guys been picking up? Louis said you picked up a Comixology Unlimited subscription.
Yeah, I did that because I had done the Comixology stuff in the past. I had a deal worked out with a buddy of mine that was getting all the Star Wars comics where we'd go half and half on the physical comics, and he'd give me the codes. So, he won, I won. It was good. So I had a bunch of comics already for that. So I figured,
officially, Random Chatter does not endorse that sort of activity.
Yeah, that's true.
Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah. So I stayed there, and I went to that, and I'm doing most of the older Star Wars stuff to kind of go back and see things I hadn't read everything up before.
When you say older, you mean
going through
since a Disney, like 2012 and on. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Because I started some of those series, never really finished a lot of them, so I'm going through those. And I'm kind of poking around to see what else is available I'm still learning what's available in the unlimited thing for Comixology. It's frustrating. Sometimes you get one issue available and other issues not. And I'm like, why is that?
It's a lot like Amazon
there?
Prime. Here's a bunch of free stuff, and then if you want the premium stuff, you got to pay for that individually.
Yeah, I went back to look to find the first issue that Sword was mentioned in Marvel, and in that run of comics, everything was available except for that one issue. I'm like, really?
Wow.
Okay. So
I really like Comixology as a platform. And if you want to buy a particular thing, or I picked up a lot of the Transformers graphic novels from IDW that way. But especially if you want Marvel stuff, I think Marvel Unlimited is the way to go. And if you want DC stuff, the DC Unlimited.
yeah, probably.
But what do you think of the Star Wars stuff, though? Anything that stands out really that I really like this series?
The only one I've really been through in getting kind of really going through has been the Darth Vader stuff, which I find fascinating, and the whole Afra stuff going on along with that. I'll probably start with the Afra series after this run of Darth Vader.
Good.
Yeah.
And also, if you haven't read it, they did the Lando miniseries.
Yeah.
Absolutely read that. That is fantastic.
Cool. Cool.
I would say those are probably the three best things I've read was the original Darth Vader series. I know they stopped it and then restarted it, and I haven't caught up with that yet. And they did the same with Afra, and I haven't caught the second run of that yet. And the Lando miniseries, those were definitely phenomenal. So.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how I did it. I read the original run of the Vader series and then didn't pick it up when they started up again. For Afra, I didn't read the original run, but now the second run I have been reading.
Oh,
okay.
So yeah,
and I think that the second runs of both those are not available on the Unlimited series yet because they're too new.
No, the second ones are available on Marvel Unlimited.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, Marvel, not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So.
Oh, and there's also the Bounty Hunters one, which I read the first few issues of, and it was good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting story.
I'm on the second one right now, and I'm really, and I am all about bounty hunters, but I'm kind of reading it like, why am I caring about this?
Yeah.
Tim, before you get into the stuff you've been reading, I have a question for you about Marvel Comics and the way it relates to the MCU. I've heard different things about, in regard to the future of the MCU. I've heard rumblings about the Secret Invasion storyline. I've heard rumblings about the more recent Secret Wars. Are both of those expected to be hitting the MCU, or one more so than the other? Or like, what do I want to utilize Marvel Unlimited for right now in order to prep for the bigger arc in the MCU?
I don't think Secret Wars. I think Secret Wars has less of a chance than Secret Invasion.
Okay.
Secret Invasion may certainly well, and obviously because they've introduced the Skrulls into it, and that's basically the entire central point of Secret Invasion. And then from what we got in the end credits scene from Spider-Man Far From Home, with Nick Fury up in the ship with the Skrulls, maybe. But then what we've also gotten out of this is that they've kind of done this twist in the MCU where we're more friendly with the Skrulls than we were in the comics. So,
but then we've also got the multiverse thing going too, which is why people have been seemingly talking Secret Wars. So I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, it's so hard to tell because there's really so many storylines that they could pick up that have been talked about. And of course, there's the mystery that's sitting right in front of us right now, the WandaVision, trying to figure out who the antagonist is that's meddling with Wanda's artificial reality that she's created. And, there's a slate of, 4 solid possibilities. And that's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And largely, whoever that ends up being, I think there's going to be considerable mileage out of.
Oh, yeah.
I'm personally rooting for Mephisto.
A lot of people are saying Mephisto. Some people are, I don't know. It seems like more people are saying Mephisto than anybody else right now.
Yeah. It could, Nightmare is a close second. But I think Mephisto, they can get a lot of mileage out of in the MCU, especially on the mystical side, which then, you have, they're going to bring Blade in, they're going to bring Moon Knight in, which can pair up really well on that mystical side of things.
Yeah, I added Moon Knight to my
already have Doctor Strange
list.
And there's a good possibility that we're going to see a Ghost Rider revival, which would really make sense. So I all that stuff will tie together, and basically in the mystical side of things, Mephisto would be that Thanos.
Right.
They can go this whole big arc with a particular group of characters and get a lot of, he's the big bad in the end.
Yeah.
But also in the MCU, we're going to see a fracturing. We're going to see a cosmic group, we're going to see a mystical group, and we're going to see a, quote, street group. And then we're going to see mutants. And
looking forward to
you're
that.
going to have these different groups that, yes, there will be some interaction, but I think by necessity, they're all going to have kind of their own storylines.
So in a nutshell, without too much analysis, just what would you, if somebody said, hey, I just got Marvel Unlimited, I want to catch some things that, I know they're not going to be straight adaptations. They never have been with the MCU, but what do I want to catch up on that will make me more familiar with the MCU? People have already said House of M for WandaVision, Secret Invasions, maybe Secret Wars, maybe not. Anything else that really stands out that you think people should pick up on? Moon, I mean, obviously any character that is getting their own series, the Shang-Chi,
Totally.
Moon Knight. What was that?
Yeah, totally. And they just came out with a just released new Shang-Chi series.
Okay.
Truly, I think they're on like issue 2 or 3.
Okay.
So you can get in on that. There's an Eternals one that's coming out, which either has just come out or is just coming out.
Okay.
There's a compendium book that they did, graphic novel size thing on Mephisto, which is absolutely fascinating. It's a big book. I mean, picking it up on Comixology or Marvel Unlimited, it's still like 500 some odd pages.
Wow.
It's one of those things that like you'll read a couple stories out of it and then you'll go read something else. And then a couple weeks later, you'll come back to it and read a couple more stories. And there's multiple arcs in it. So it's not like one big long story that you have to pay attention to. It's basically Mephisto in his most poignant stories through time of the MCU. And in really thinking that Mephisto is going to be this big bad that's coming up, this gives a tremendous amount of insight, not only on him, but also the characters that he's interacted with.
Okay.
You've got the Fantastic Four, you've got Doctor Strange, you've got Doctor Doom.
You have Deadpool?
All these characters. Not in that book, no, but I know he has interacted with them before.
Well, yeah, you turned him into Tom Cruise. No, literally, yeah. He literally turned it because he got rid of the cancer, made him Tom Cruise, so then he still can't take his mask off anywhere because then everybody flocks to him and wants his autograph, and so like still kind of cursed. Okay, so that's a good recommendation. But I didn't mean to distract from the rest of the episode here. What have you been reading with comics recently, and books?
So books, yeah. You mentioned Light of the Jedi, which we talked about over on Force Chatter. Having just finished Light of the Jedi, I went back to my fantasy roots. The very first fantasy book that I ever read was the first book in the Dragon Realm series by Richard A. Knack.
Okay.
Richard A. Knack, he did this Dragon Realm series. He did some Dragonlance novels in the like D&D kind of world. He's done some stuff in World of Warcraft recently. He's done so he kind of bounces back and forth between someone else's IP and then he writes some of his own things. I found that a few years ago, he did a prequel series to his Dragon Realm series. So I picked up the first book of this and just this morning started reading it. And like immediately that world came back to me. And so this goes back to 93, 94, probably 93 when I first started reading fantasy. And this was like, this stuff got me into, I then, rapidly consumed all the Dragonland stuff afterwards. This was before I even got into reading Star Wars stuff. So this was truly the first fantasy stuff I ever read. And I immediately, my brain went right back to it. And I'm like, oh, I remember these characters in this group and that faction. And
nice.
Yeah. Incredibly well done stuff. So I'm just really excited about getting back into that.
Awesome.
And then comics wise, reading issues of things here and there. There's the Doctor Doom series that's out that I really, really enjoy right now. There's also a good Iron Man series that's out that I'm enjoying. Those are both fairly new. And on your recommendation, Eric, I went back into, there are several G.I. Joe series out there that IDW has. Mm-hmm. And I ended up picking up, just because of the familiarity, G.I. Joe Classics, so the Marvel had their run of G.I. Joe comics, which were probably the first comics I ever read, I think.
Yeah, me too.
I was big into the comics, the toys, and the cartoon.
Yeah.
So it's like all that was the bundle that went together for me. And I remember I actually did read through the end of that series that Marvel did. And then a number of years later, they got the same writer to come back and say, hey, pick up where you left
Larry
off.
Hama.
Larry Hama. And
the legend.
I mean, just absolutely incredible. Yeah. And so this was, and there's other series, like I said, other G.I. Joe series out there that have done very different things and very different stories with these characters. But he got to basically continue off of his 22 years later or something like that, picking it up. And again, it was one of those things that I just started reading it and boom, my mind went right back into it.
It's good.
It is. It's really good. And then also it's again, because of that, kind of world between the comics and the toys and the cartoon. When I was a kid, I'm reading the comic book and I can hear the voices of the characters from the cartoon, and I can remember playing with the toys. So it's like, oh, I had that action figure, or I had that vehicle. And there's a lot of nostalgia there. And the writing is just really, really good. It's a lot of fun stuff.
Larry Hama is a brilliant writer. I never finished out the original series, and I keep wondering, do I need to go back and finish that out before I continue with the new stuff?
I don't think
I'm familiar with all the characters because the cartoons, the toy line, all that.
Yeah. I don't think you would need to. I don't think you would need to. It's yes, it picks up where it left off, but it also is, pretty explanatory of where you're at and why.
I gambled on that because I recommended it because I knew it was out there and I knew the other G.I. Joe stuff was good and everybody had been raving about it. And I had read the IDW Transformers stuff that had come out recently, and it is absolutely brilliant and I love it. And so I expected G.I. Joe to be the same.
Like,
what's that?
Even though they're IDW, and IDW tends to lean toward a younger audience, these are not, like, at least the G.I. Joe stuff is, they're not pulling punches in it.
They didn't with the Transformers either. It's like very much like, I would not want my son reading this Transformers line.
Yeah.
I might have to pick that up then. In fact, I think I've got a gift card for Amazon for my birthday. Maybe I'll when we're done here, I'll snag that because I miss Transformers and I miss G.I. Joe. We talked a lot about Star Wars, but really there was a trifecta I grew up with because as a kid, like I love Star Wars, but we weren't getting more Star Wars content. Yeah. So it was G.I. Joe cartoons, Transformers cartoons, the toys, the comic books. Yeah.
I think it's like book 16 or something, because they doing like compendiums of them. So it's like book 16 is where it picks up with the new stuff. But I think that there's also a free, at least in Comixology, there's a free comic in there that's like, it's the bridge comic. It's like a 0.1 or a 0.5.
Okay.
So it's, you had whatever it was, 125 was the last one from the original run, and 126, because they continued with the numbering, is the new one. So they did like a 125.5.
Okay.
To kind of just
is it included in the? Are you saying it's a separate issue, but it's free, or is it included in the graphic novels?
I think it was
Okay,
separate.
I'll take a look for
Or
it.
actually, it might have.
Do you know how many new compendiums there have been from that series?
A lot.
Really?
I'm only like 3 in, and there's probably still another 8
Oh,
left.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good
All
stuff.
right. Well, in that case, I think we're gonna wrap things up here. So we are not going to be recording this weekend because of the football thing, because I guess that's important. I don't know. We don't have to review that, do we? 'Cause I'm not taking
Yes.
notes. Do you really want to hear me
No,
review
Eric,
it?
You have to watch it, Eric.
We have Sportscasters Anonymous. They
That's
will be
true.
reviewing it.
Sportscasters Anonymous
That's true.
on the Random Chatter Network. It's not on our YouTube channel, but it, along with a lot of other great podcasts, is available in audio format wherever fine podcasts are sold, except you don't have to buy ours. You get them for free. So go to randomchatter.com. You've got the links. You've got the different things you can click on to get those. And please do so. You know, we're trying to launch the YouTube channel here and get that kind of fully up and running, but there's a lot of shows that are just audio only still, and you don't want to miss out on those. So definitely go to randomchatter.com and check those out. The Tight Beam comes to mind. I know The Expanse is just about to wrap up with this 5th season. That's another thing I didn't mention that I've been watching is The Expanse, and it's been really, really good this season. A lot of good stuff. So check out the Tight Beam. randomchatter.com/YouTube. Please go there, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That'd be a big help to us. We do live shows typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Movie Chatter. We alternate every other week. Sunday nights, normally 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, not this weekend because of the football game, but we will be picking up again after that. And then Force Chatter, we're also going to be doing some smaller episodes here and there as well. So be sure to check those out. Go to randomchatter.com/Discord and join the community there. And you can also go to /Patreon and /store to help support the network. That is going to do it. Enjoy the big game this weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and we will see you again very soon.